Okay.
Four.
Oh, it's done? All right.
If you're at 3, you can do it again. 2.
No, I'm happy. All right. Welcome back, Shoreside. We are back on the bottom at 2,000 meters on MPM3, Mid-Pacific Mountain number 3. This is going to be a quick dive. Only 6 hours. Had a couple of transects to finish off at 2,000 meters. So this is the ROV Falcor, the ROV SuBastian, part of the Bridge or Barrier Research Project with the Schmidt Ocean Institute, Florida State University, Amy Bacco Taylor, Texas A&M University, and I'm Brendan Rourke. So we're going to get started because we need to do some science. So let's do this. I'll come back with a minute and give you an update. Pretty much ready.
You ready? I'm ready.
All right, let's start going to the west, and yeah, let's do. Yeah, might as well just start a transect. That's what we're here to do.
Transecting.
Can I get your sit cam out so I can make sure I'm oriented properly?
We have to usually have the camera. That's it.
All right, you got transect started, Eric?
Yep.
All right.
All right, stand by.
Go.
Stand by. Okay.
Moving closer.
There you
Moving closer. Moving closer. Terrain. Terrain. We're off to races.
And another
I will take you
dead.
Auto ISO so you can mess with irons and all that stuff.
Okay. We're both on auto focus, so we're in sync on that front.
So autofocus is off on mine. Should be off on your right. It's on.
It's on. I think as long as it's both auto, then I can just turn it off on mine, or on and off on mine, and I can focus. And then when I turn it back on auto, it goes back to. It works this way. As long as we don't become out of sync.
Yeah.
And look at that. We got a stock bamboo right off the bat, and then we're into sediment. Crap.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah. Canadian. Sorry, did you? Go 500 meters?
Yes, please.
That flapped out on me. Sorry for the smoke. Digging the trench.
200 meters up. Right Carrot. What are you doing right over there? You ate your hitch?
All right, so this is our fourth dive, fifth dive. You can see that we've moved just a little bit more south on MPM3. We finished up a 36-hour dive 6 hours ago-ish, and so brought the ROV back on deck, did a bunch of quick turnaround maintenance, sample processing, did a CTD, did a couple-hour transit run, and we're back in the water. We need to clean up a couple of transects at 2,000 meters because at the other site they were mostly sedimented covered, so we're looking for hard substrate like we're finding now. The reason why we're doing the transects is to be quantitative from site to site. So we do transects 1.5 meters off the sea floor, fixed camera angle, fixed zoom, and they are a set distance. In our case, they're 500 meters, so we'll do 3 times 500 meters at this depth today, 2,000 meters. When someone goes back to shore, they will be going through and reviewing the transects. So they will be counting every type of sponge, coral, all the megafauna, and looking to do complete counts of all the megafauna. And then by doing these sort of rigorous transects in the same fashion at the same depth at every seamount or every site that we visit, we're able to quantitatively compare the results from depth to depth and from site to site. So no, it's not necessarily the most exciting thing on shoreside. If you're used to sort of the random exploration, moving around, just being able to stop and look and sample everything that you sometimes see with these kinds of operations. But this way allows us to do a little bit more, to bring a little bit more statistical power to our post-cruise analyses of what's there. We'll also, in between transects, be jumping ahead like by 100 meters or so, and at that point in time we take advantage of that to do some sampling, mostly for genetics, which is the work that Dr. Amy Bacco-Taylor does at Florida State University, as well as, and so those samples are quite small, and then we'll take sort of voucher specimens. These are slightly larger samples that we use to ensure that we're making the right IDs on the video specimen, or what we see on the video transects. And then we also take a small number of whole specimens in order to do some paleoceanographic projects, so reconstructing past ocean conditions as well as determining the age and growth rates of different deep sea corals. So that's the quick summary of what we're doing. So we're anticipating being down for about 6 hours today before we have to move on to our next site. Just also noting that we are in the Pacific Remote Islands National Marine Monument. Our next site will be out of there, and so today we are a little bit limited in the types and quantities of samples that we can take, although there hasn't been a overwhelming plethora of samples to be taken any which way. So let us know if you have any questions.
That's a good question.
I can't answer that question.
Is it a state secret, or are you just not sure?
I just don't know.
Okay.
aren't you supposed to say like how much wood could a woodchuck wood, and then like the woodchuck could chuck wood at blah 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 blah, like without and enunciate everything clearly? Because I have problems with that.
Sometimes.
Sure. Right now, the Tigers of LSU were 45 points,
Oh, you're gonna bring this up?
and the Longhorns of Texas have scored 31 points, for a difference of 14 points between the two, with 2 minutes and 27 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Tigers of Clemson scored 24 points, while the Aggies of Texas A&M scored 10 points.
Yes.
Oh,
Also 14 points in spread.
oh, against Clemson.
But what about how many points did Colorado score, and how many points did Nebraska score?
It might take me a minute. Oh, no, there it is. Colorado scored 34 points in overtime,
Yeah.
while Nebraska scored 31 points in overtime, just by 3 points.
Yes. And Nebraska was ranked. Colorado wasn't.
Ranked 25th, yes.
So a not so good day, a not so good day, and a good day.
Mine's doing good. Tigers winning. Get your tea. Saw them off.
Those of you that were watching late last night had the we had one of our undergrads out here, Bailey, showing us all the different hand signs for that different classes do at Texas A&M, because it's a university with a rich tradition of all kinds of interesting things. Hopefully that'll make the highlight reel.
Should.
It should. If there's any justice in the world, it'll make the highlight
Every
reel.
time she comes in the control room, she needs to do the signs. She here?
No, she's sleeping. She's on the morning shift or the day shift.
AM shift.
The AM shift.
PM shift. Who comes out at night?
So for those interested or those keeping track, we've got Cody in the pilot chair, Chris in the co-pilot chair. Or what do you? There you are. There's Cody, and we got Chris. Did you call that the co-pilot chair, or what do you call it?
Co-pilot.
Co-pilot. Then we got John down at the end, doing all of the. Got Ben sitting in back over here, waiting for his turn in one of the chairs.
Snapping at the bit over there.
We got
Ben.
Virginia from Florida State. We got Eric doing squiddle and event logging from
Ben.
University of Hawaii.
Ben.
Ben, give him a wave.
Oh.
And then there's. Now he's going.
Oh,
He's walking
getting
out.
loose. Getting loose.
He's
Going to the galley.
He's a little camera shy.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
What's that?
Oh, Chris, that's good.
So Virginia, what are you most excited about now that you're a Floridian? What are you looking forward to do the most?
I don't know, I guess sun. Sun's pretty nice.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot of sun.
A lot of that.
It's the Sunshine State, they say.
That is the rumor. You know what you're gonna miss? A lot. My
The Four Seasons.
some food. Yeah, you probably won't miss like late November to early March very much, unless you were like that kind of stuff.
I like a mild winter, and I'm used to heavy winter, so it doesn't seem like winter or like Christmas time without heavy snow. So
Not
that
that
might be a struggle.
Girl.
There'll be some chilly days. So
Oh, yeah?
You'll get down to
50?
Coral.
I think below that. Yeah,
Grim Millet,
not
probably.
much.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, might
It's like
Might-
jeans and a t-shirt year round.
3-4
But-
o'clock in the morning if you venture out for whatever you college kids do at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. It might be in the high 30s, low 40s around again. Dead of winter.
Isn't that something? Well,
But how do you quantify a mild winter given that you're from Maine and Alaska, right? Like,
okay, so yeah, I don't
yeah, that's not exactly known for mild winters.
Yeah, and I did grow up in
Real?
Chicago, which
Yeah,
isn't-
exactly.
That also
So-
is pretty brutal, so.
Is that by your house?
Across the street.
Yeah. Oh, well, that looks like baby Bahamas.
Yeah, the neighbors were king on. But they have underground parking.
How's your house?
I don't know. I think it's fine.
Oh no.
Well, it'd be sitting pretty smiling if you had your windows closed. Huh?
Yeah.
Maybe the window saved it.
Wait a minute. They may have blown.
Ooh,
How about big Florida State?
Florida State
windows,
won.
so they could have blown that, but
Yeah, no way.
by 1 point against Louisiana Monroe.
Monroe.
Nice.
Oh,
That's not really saying much. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just
That's a victory in
It's like playing the Browns.
it's a victory in the strictest of definitions only.
yes.
I'm fine with that.
pick up this one. Oh, wait,
Whoa! What was that?
yeah.
Rain, dude. Oh! Tell me that's not your
It's by
apartment
you.
building.
That's I can see it from my apartment, but
Oh no.
Wow, dude.
it's getting inside.
How hard is what's the level of that storm right now?
I think it's chilling out now.
Like 200 meters away? Bring it down south of it. How accurate is that thing?
I get a few people. That one bad one. That might be pretty accurate.
Well, I think you wanted that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because also like I don't know for how much. Probably make yourself like I just said.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
it's
It's fun good right now.
So you should have a whole lot of built-in protections for this kind of thing.
no, I mean there's one supposed to go up.
Bridge ROV.
Casinos.
ROV Bridge, go ahead.
Yeah, just apologize. We have tracking jumping around, so I might move you up and then move you back so we get better hits. So
Just keep going west.
yeah, just keep west and if I
Stay with that thing.
change it, then
If you want to.
be patient with me
I will be patient with you. I will not curse your name out
anymore.
anymore.
Appreciate you.
You said INS.
This
Oh,
side.
And you are back.
That's exciting.
That's better.
Yeah.
It normally doesn't do that.
That's weird. Sorry about that, Brendan.
It's okay.
I bought a depth on.
Which one if you don't want?
Super.
Like, good stuff. If you want to put these plates,
Yeah. Yeah.
That was weird. I just never had it before. At least not that drastic.
They just go crazy on you.
Yeah, it completely knocked it out.
Yeah, that's what I was for.
Yeah, so it
It just did it again.
just updates and now what happened.
Oh,
Berg says shout out to Eric.
It's my dad.
Ah.
What's up, Eric Dad?
Hey.
Hello, Eric's dad.
That's great.
You want to share anything? Say hi to your dad.
Hi, Dad.
That's all you got.
That's
Hi,
like-
Dad.
I don't know what.
All he's done for you, and that's all you can
Man,
do.
it brought you into this world.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't know.
Well, it's
I have a
well done.
lifetime to repay him for that and to say thank you.
Yeah, maybe.
That's also yeah. Sure.
I don't think Bob Seger gets enough credit.
That's quite a bit of credit.
I agree with that statement.
But not enough. Maybe it's because he's from Ann Arbor and Detroit that I have a little bit of a soft spot.
Silver bullet band.
Eric's doing a good job for us while he's out here. He's working hard. So his presence is much appreciated.
Eric, I didn't tell you, but I just gave you a close up there.
That's alright.
Candid shot.
I'm trying to. That's good.
Don't want to distract you.
I think I did my here.
I don't. Thank you. I appreciate it. Awesome.
How far did you go, Crystal?
120. $275 meters.
I was way off.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
25.
Well, you were
75 meters.
200 meters.
Okay.
This one was short. Like 200 meters. More 200.
I was gonna go.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually done 225 meters. Going back to that, but it's 2 prices less.
What's the word for?
Pressure.
That came from the head. It's in the camera, we can't really do much about it.
I think Spock's got an S. Is that the stuff for? AHRS. Yeah.
But
So the red one. Good. On the left. So long device large. And in the back.
What's your favorite Bob Seger song, Chris?
mine?
Against the wind.
No.
Light moves. Turn the page.
Well, you like turn the page.
I feel
For the Metallica version, right?
I feel like a number.
That's good.
Whoa.
There we go.
It's not spam.
Probably still the same, I think.
What's going on here, Chris?
Oh no. Confused.
Stuck. Oh no. Big boulder underneath me out of the wood. Huge boulder.
The song Main Street was written about Main Street in what city?
Detroit.
Not Detroit. Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Remaking the top cover.
That's good.
Remaking the top cover of
Whiskey and Gyro. It's a little bit too.
Wow.
There's some pretty good covers. We covered MIE, that's pretty good. MIE.
Guns N' Roses knocking on heaven's door.
Knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. That's my. I prefer the classic cover.
Rat-tailed fish.
I don't hate the GNR cover of Live and Let Die. Yeah. If you get cover infringement for that rendition we just did, then they're taking themselves way too seriously.
It's the algorithms. Man. Oh boy.
Sponge. Seen tons of those.
I can't believe that video. There's good.
Across the street.
How many square meters is your apartment? No. How many square feet is it?
That's a good question.
Hold on.
Ready?
Yeah. They suspended
Shallower. Shallower somewhere after 15.
pork. Pork. You don't eat. You gotta eat cream is vegan?
Yeah.
So,
In a heartbeat, you tripped me.
Saw that bear in the woods. He was nowhere.
I was in the back.
On with it. Good job on holding back, man.
Well,
Good job on holding back. Proud of you. You're making progress.
kiddo.
Alright.
Anybody want to go eat? Do not say that. That is not correct.
What is it? Like what?
Routine?
What was it?
Routine?
Something like that.
What?
What you said meant something else. Big cat. Good on you. Good job. Good job. Big cat. He's a big cat.
Big cat. I'm big dog, by the way, Jim.
No, fine.
Did you just give yourself a nickname?
Big dog.
Big dog.
Big dog on sticks.
An exoskeleton.
If you could make an exoskeleton for me.
You probably treat your grandma.
Hey, big cat. What are you eating? Is that chocolate bar you're eating?
Hmm?
Is that chocolate bar you're eating?
No, it's a peanut butter bar.
Cliff Bar.
there is
I like that mint Cliff Bar.
small stock
The chocolate chip one?
of
There's a
something.
big one.
The mint chocolate chip, we had them when we were camping.
Oh,
They were really good.
I like the blueberry ones too.
Blueberry ones were really good as well. That's my favorite blueberry.
So, what have you found since you've been down here?
That makes sense.
Ooh, a very
Pretty color.
Eric,
Sea cucumber.
me and my young man have dog.
Ben's trying to hand out all the Oreos now.
I'm not eating the Oreos.
Proud of you, Ben. Did you have a Coke?
No.
When was the last time we had a Coke?
Probably at the house.
Down.
I'll forgive you for the Coke at the house because we were all guys that stuck on vacation.
I'm
Everything in moderation, including itself.
Exactly.
cold drink that fuck up your leg.
See somebody drinking Coke and you're like,
These Oreos don't.
Creeping up on the wall.
a lot better right there.
Go another 20. We'll
Yes,
wait
please.
to. We'll do once we switch to J-Rod and Ben.
Want to switch now?
Well, we've got about 20 more meters to go. Then we'll switch because that'll be that into that transect. And then I can sit down and ship can get behind us. Hello.
Sure wish,
Bro.
hey man.
Doing really good.
that?
10 more meters. Alright. 20 meters in the bank.
All right.
What we'll do is I'm going to go sit down. Do a quick co-pilot.
Okay.
Forward bend we're doing. You're fine?
Yep.
I'm going to sit down for you.
Sure.
Let the ship catch up just a little bit.
Sit on down.
And this will be your starting point. We just did 500 meter transect just now.
Another 100.
Yes.
Ending.
Alright then, so start over here, move the way down. Now we're going to start one way down. 2,000 meters. Right here, it's been holding the line, auto depth. Right now I have lock on.
Yeah.
So you just take that off, you don't have to go. These are trimmed down, so we're not going super fast. And the ship's moving in position.
Ending transect.
Yes.
You're gonna do
Ben,
the
what be with you, Ben?
Thank you.
do the 100 meters.
Kind of play with the camera while you're doing stuff, Ben.
Oh, so this transect's over? Yeah. So the ship's just moving down behind you. Yeah.
What's that?
Whatever else I have. Let somebody else knows.
All right. We can pick up and move 100 meters to the west in order to be able to start another transect.
Ready?
Yep, we're ready.
Brendan?
Yeah, you want to take over?
Sure.
They're just moving 100 meters to the west, so any kind of do any kind of imaging on anything that you see. You know the drill, right? Just be on the lookout for corals and whatnot. Okay.
Cool.
Hey, I've updated that waypoint going that same direction you're going now. Thank you.
And then since we just went up, wait. What is that? Since you're just gonna grab.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm just gonna make There you go.
Say it, yeah, 2000. You gotta keep that.
Where'd it go? It's got me.
I was just wondering if you checked out a sponge. Cool.
Are we in a transect now, or are we going between sites?
We're in between sites. Yeah. Or in between transects. Ooh, can we go take a look at those sponges? Or that? Wait, nope, that's a rock.
There was a big that or something.
Oh, I can no longer tell if that's a rock or a sponge over there. Any chance we could go take a look?
Move forward. You want to see it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, move forward a little bit. I think that's the direction that my camera's in.
What you looking at? Sponge? Sponge, or is that just a shadow?
Sorry, let me.
Oh, it's. Nice.
I'm not sure where it is.
That is sponge or tree.
I think that's a sponge.
Not a glass sponge, though, right?
I think it would be. How do you focus? Well, fine.
Awesome. Alright, that's cool.
Ready?
Yeah, let me just see if there's any other sponges right here. Can we go check out what that is? Do you know where I'm looking? Okay. Is it still in the general direction that we're supposed to be going?
No.
Oh, bummer.
See it?
Yeah, sorry, right there.
Yeah.
The coral? It's a sponge. No, it's coral.
Oh, I saw it.
What do you think, Virginia? Sponge.
Yeah.
Trying to focus now.
Yeah.
Should focus right now. Keep spinning. You're in auto right now.
What?
Click it. Right now, spin.
This says that I'm in auto right now. It's lit up.
Now click it.
Okay. That's a little bit. Oh yeah. There we. Wow. There we go.
That's what I was trying to find. You're awesome. I don't think it's.
Thanks.
I don't- it
That's
may not
really
be
cool.
sponge.
I don't think so. I mean, it looks like it's got polyps, but at the same time, the structures are more sponge-like.
Look, it could honestly be like a
Sweet. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Awesome.
That's that's like this species that was up there. It's the one I was
This one.
And it's closer. That's the one I was looking for. It's
Yeah.
Shit. Control C.
It's almost harder. Branch folders.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they're all. I think on the OER website I just had this open as I started confused. Yeah. I am a little bit. I put the plate aside. I got like a big plate, but I'll keep it in there. Like I had a bowl.
That looks good.
Oh, yeah.
Tried out the sauna. Sauna was awesome. That's killer. Pretty cool.
Ooh, that's a pretty fish.
If you pause it, it goes to It's a house. Yeah, you can always go back.
How which one you say was? Underrated fish.
Ooh, that looks like one of those swimming holothurians. Sea cucumbers. That's cool. I've seen a couple of those this last few days. Nice little pan of the surrounding area.
Oh, that one was
Great job with your
C. Oh, yeah, but you're
How's that, J-Rod? It's
on the way.
I'd spend about 100 meters.
Alright. Oh, shoot.
Where
You wanna
start,
talk
you
about
would just keep
No, if you guys are in a good position, let's start another transect.
Yeah. Do you want your turn? Yeah.
Everything need to figure out.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.
Oh, I know, I got it.
Okay.
So it's,
Yeah, that's it.
ready. Yeah, whatever you want.
I'm ready.
Sorry, Joseph.
Oh yeah.
Promise? Promise?
Yesterday.
Can we drop a marker, J-Rod, or did you drop one on your
I
side?
dropped a marker.
Okay, perfect. Yep. I always forget that there's two different, like each screen is a little bit different.
I can put one over there.
No, you're good. Oh yeah, you're good.
We used to be able to push this, and it was awesome. So I took the capability with us.
Well, shoreside, this is the start of transect number 2 at 2,000 meters at our second dive site on Mid-Pacific Mountain number 3. We'll be going 500 meters. Unfortunately, we're not seeing a whole lot, which has sort of been this, at least from a coral or sponge standpoint, which has been the story of MPM3. So, but anything you want to share today, or you? You're always welcome. You're always welcome to come up and sit here, and share your thoughts.
How many people we got on tonight?
Oh, you have to ask John that.
Say, John, how many are tuned in this fine Saturday evening?
The Pache book, but four. Yeah, 12 on YouTube's.
Chris, you okay?
Yeah, everything's good. Yeah, very good.
Actually finding stuff you want?
Well,
Well,
it's not sand, so that's a good thing. So, you doing okay?
yeah, I'm gonna hit the hay shortly.
Okay.
So you still maybe midnight, maybe half 10 or,
Yeah, 10:30.
You're still aiming for the half 10?
Yeah.
I just saw dive plan was 6 hours Bolton time, so I thought maybe it'd be midnight. But,
Yeah, no, if we can get away with leaving here at 10:30, then
all right,
that's what we're going to try and do,
all right, sounds
which it seems like we will be able to.
good. Okay, well,
So,
maybe I won't go to bed.
okay.
It's better to hang in there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Ty come up top and
Okay.
stand by for
All right.
whatever.
Thank you.
See you later then.
Yep.
That fish is playing. Small fish.
It's your autopilot, so that's fine. Yeah. Oh, shit.
Shrimp and a fish.
We can do it after this transit. Then do you think you could come out of that for a second? Sure. There you go. All right, now you can go back in. You're good. No, shouldn't have been yourself. Something jumped. Just the way the arrow, the arrow, just so. We're up on it. Yeah, just leave your own step off. It's all back now. You're good. You're going right. That's it. you can go back there. Good. You gotta look at it.
Let me get some
Just do it. If you hit it, then not loud enough. If not close to it, you can't slow it down that hard. Bridge, I just moved the waypoint just a little bit further in that same direction you're currently going.
Extra.
Are you breaking up?
Breaking up.
Not like that. Your comms are breaking.
John, you can hit me on that channel.
John, hi, go ahead.
Yeah, another clear call through. Breaking up, we couldn't hear you. If you want to repeat your last, or repeat right here.
I'm in a tighter last.
Yeah, I think we were able to make that out. But I meant the handheld radio at that channel.
Did you go over your water bottle sampling stuff you were doing earlier?
No, I have not gone over the water bottles that we were doing earlier.
Well-
For those of you shoreside, this is Andy Collins. He is our onboard NOAA representative. Works out of the Big Island at the NOAA Education Center. He will probably give you more details than I'm capable of giving you details on. But he's definitely participating here, doing a lot of sort of outreach work, and then helping us with some of our own science work, and then also making sure that that the information that we're collecting gets incorporated into NOAA's mission with respect to managing these monuments that we're working. At least probably 2/3 of the time that we're out are in either the Northwest Hawaiian Islands Monument or the Pacific Remote Islands Marine Monument. And despite his efforts at teaching me the proper pronunciation,
He'll get it by the end.
yeah,
Or else we won't let him off the ship.
It's a good thing I'm gonna be on the ship for a while.
Yes, well that's me, and Dr. Rorik here is also the one of the leading experts in isotopic analysis of some of these deep sea critters we're collecting for isotopes of boron, which can kind of give a proxy of oceanic pH. And one thing you shared with me earlier that I thought was really fascinating was we haven't collected, I don't think, on this seamount yet, but in the previous seamount we collected a couple of dead bamboo corals. The skeleton was still on the bottom. And as you know, as you might imagine, these organisms can grow over hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. The ones that we sampled, he was telling me it was maybe 100, 200 years old.
Yeah, probably 200.
Uncertain, but what's really interesting is that you know, the larvae settle out, they attach to the bottom, they start to grow if it's a suitable environment, And eventually they grow up to 20 meters, 30 meters high. And when he does the analyses of the skeletons, the base of the skeleton can give an approximation of what the ocean acidity was at the bottom. But above a certain point, the coral starts to capture things from the water, many of which have fallen from above. And so the pH or the boron isotope analysis gives you a picture not of what's on the bottom, but higher up in the water column, because it's capturing those animals.
Yeah, so with the bamboo corals, that's a particular deep sea coral that has both a calcium carbonate skeleton and a proteinaceous skeleton. So it literally looks like your bamboo that you might have growing in your yard. That's why they're called, as a common name, bamboo corals. And so we've proven that the calcium carbonate is deriving, or the carbon that's at least being deposited in the calcium carbonate portion is reflective of the carbon at which the coral is reflective of the carbon at which the I can't even speak this morning. It's reflective of the carbon at the depth at which the coral is living. So I think one of the ones that we collected at the last site that was probably 200 years old. I think that was collected at like around 1,800 meters, if I remember correctly. And while the Gorgonan internodes are going to reflect the carbon that was out of basically recently exported particulate organic material. So basically a record of what's going on in the surface ocean. So same organism can give you a 200-year record of what happened at 1,800 meters in this case, as well as what happened in the surface ocean. We're pretty well versed at doing boron isotopes on the carbonate portions. Doing it on the Gorgonan portions is going to be a little bit more challenging, but you can certainly look at changes in, say, ocean productivity or changes in the trophic structure of an ecosystem using the proteinaceous parts of these different deep sea corals. So bamboo corals, gold corals, black corals, and using carbon and nitrogen isotopes and compound specific isotopes. So there's a plethora of or wide range of tools that we can use to reconstruct different oceanographic variables. So we do a lot of that work in my lab, and there's a number of other labs across the United States and throughout the world that do similar types of projects. One of the things that that Andy sort of alluded to was the water collection work that we do. So at every site that we visit, we are not only collecting water samples with the ROV, we have 4 small Niskin bottles that we can basically fire or trip, and they capture 5 liters, 10 liters, 20 liters, depending upon the size, at the depth at which the bottles are fired. At each site, we also do at least one CTD cast, so we're measuring temperature, pressure, conductivity, oxygen, a couple of other parameters, but we're also taking water samples at different depths. And what we do with those is go back to the lab and do some total alkalinity measurements, some dissolved inorganic carbon measurements on one set of samples, nutrients on another set of samples. Sometimes we do radiocarbon measurements, sometimes we do trace element measurements. But basically what we're doing is that we're sort of characterizing the water column above these deep sea coral communities. And from a sort of paleoceanographic standpoint, that gives us a really good sort of in-member calibration, or an ability to compare our measurements to the modern instrumental record, as well as compare those measurements to the proxy that, say, we're using as a stand-in for an oceanographic or environmental variable. So in the case of boron, we're using that as a proxy for ocean pH. And so we can calculate ocean pH after we've done the total alkalinity and dissolved inorganic carbon measurements. So we have a really wide range of samples, and we've been working in this region for many years, so like the last 5 years. So we have a really good latitudinal and longitudinal transect, as well as a depth transect that gives us a really wide range of ocean pH ranges that we will be able to develop into a very nice ocean pH to boron calibration curve. So it's a pretty big part of our research program, or my research program, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, listening to him might sound like he's painting a picture of very good surveying of this region, but that actually represents maybe 3 trips of 10 samples each. It's not like your typical terrestrial area where you might have a weather station that's collecting data every minute, or in NOAA's case, our observatory up on Mauna Loa that is famous for the Keeling curve and the carbon dioxide increase in the atmosphere. I mean, that measurement is taken by technicians that calibrate that instrument every week, and when you're dealing with the center of the Pacific Ocean in an area that is, I mean, the entire time we've been out here, I think we saw, or at least I only saw one other ship. There may be other ships that I haven't seen, but I mean, it's a very infrequented area. It's very remote, and the samples that they're getting through that type of analysis does allow them to paint a picture, but it's not that they get a lot of chances to take those samples. And the cool thing about that is that, it again, one of the reasons why, say, we take sampling of carbon dioxide and other atmospheric gases on the top of Mauna Loa is because it has some of the purest air on the planet. It's it's basically cruised across a large percentage of the Pacific Ocean. It's not in an industrial area. We do have a volcano, but they're very good at calibrating for that, and the amount of sulfur dioxide that enters into their calculations is factored out. But this area similarly is an area that doesn't have a lot of direct human influence and impact, so it is a really good site to, if you can take out the oceanic acidity and pH by proxy from carbon isotopes. It gives you an idea of what's going on in the center of the ocean, far away from human generated sources of carbon dioxide and things like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point to make, is that we talk about having hypotheses, which we certainly do, right, as part of how you typically do science. But when you're working in these kinds of regions, and there's also a great deal of exploration, and sometimes part of science is just to go out and explore and see what's there, and then then you can start worrying about forming hypotheses and sort of generating expectations. And so we're sort of combining both of that. We definitely come into a region or come into a project like this with some hypotheses, but in a lot of cases we are diving on some of these seamounts. We're probably the first to dive, and so from that aspect there's definitely an exploration component to it. We would love to be able to predict, and know for sure that when we go into the water, that exactly what we're going to find, and that we'll be able to address our questions that we have sort of set out to answer. This site is a good example of, everything that we know from years of doing this kind of work and picking dive sites and, you know, looking at the bathymetry, looking at the, you know, spacing of the contours, looking at how steep it is, looking at the backscatter to determine the roughness, the hardness of the sea floor. You know, these should be good prime coral and sponge habitats, and we're not seeing very much. So there's, you know, that's not what we would expect. That also doesn't mean that the data is invaluable or not valuable. A lot of times, you know, when working in deep sea coral, doing that kind of work, a lot of people want to go to where there are deep sea corals, and so, you know, for obvious reasons. But sometimes going where there aren't, and, you know, doing these kinds of transects and not finding anything and trying to figure out why they're in one places versus where they're not is equally as important to characterizing their distribution. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's the hypothesis, research, testing methods, proving results, conclusions, the coming up with your answer through rigorous methods, and coming up with, say, you know, that your hypothesis was originally wrong, and science is just not wrong, but just maybe your observation was incorrect or something, is just as important as. The objective of science is not to prove yourself right. The objective is to come up with a theoretical question and see, based upon your understanding and the pieces that you know and your hypothesis, is it right or wrong? And the proving that they're, you know, looking at this and thinking that there should be more coral here, and then actually going down and observing and seeing that there aren't, is just as important as observing a dense coral field. And what's interesting about this site, so getting back to the backscatter imagery from the multi-beam sensor. So when we shoot the beam down in an area like this that has what looks like almost like a dusting of marine snow from the surface, it might be a very thin layer of sand, and that would return it would be a hard return that we would get back. So we would think that the bottom may be rock and not have, it wouldn't show up the fine dusting of sediment very easily. It would look indifferent. It would look the same as a hard rock substrate without any marine snow on it. So that fine sediment makes it very hard for larvae to attach and settle out. And I used an example the other night of, like, you know, imagine if you put salt on your table and try to attach a piece of tape to your table. It's not going to attach because it's just going to grab the salt grains. You clear away the salt, there's a nice smooth surface, you put the tape on there, and you know, it's stuck for good, right? So it's same thing, similar with a larvae. It needs a substrate which it can attach itself firmly to in order to settle out successfully and survive. So this kind of marine snow, this like dusting, is inhibits that, the larvae, to settle out and attach. And we've seen a lot of these, if you've seen some of these stalks that look almost like vertebrae, those are a type of glass sponge that we've seen before. They're beautiful. They grow up rather large, almost look like ribs or skeleton. And we've seen in this dive, we've seen several stalks from those sponges that have grown up and died for whatever reason. Nikki, our other scientist on board, she shared with me yesterday that when you do have marine snow like this and sponges, it could potentially plug the sponge up. If it gets too much sediment on it, and actually sponges are very sensitive to flow through their spicules or their cells, and if it gets jammed up with fine sediment, it could actually kill the sponge. So that that might be something of what's going on, or they could have just died from old age, or maybe that's part of their life cycle. We don't know about these particular sponges. They are really cool, though. I was the other night I was reading a paper about some of these glass sponges, and the scientists at Bell Labs had studied one of these species and found that the way that they structure their glass filaments makes it very, very strong, and gives them insight and potentially to how to build fiber optic cables that are much stronger, using some of the same principles of construction that the glass sponge uses for its fibers. And it's really neat. That paper came out in, I think, 2005 in Science, and it just goes to show you that nature still has a lot to teach us about engineering and other. It's a topic, one topic called biomimicry, where we're looking at how nature constructs things and potentially making adaptations of those into engineering and other practices.
So, in just an engineering note, the cable that attaches the ROV to the ship is in fact a fiber optic cable. So, some of the benefits of that early research, I guess.
Yeah. We have like 40 kilometers of fiber optic cable on this ship. They're going down to the ROV. There are 6 strands of 4.5 kilometers each. What are they, John? 5.5 kilometers each. And that is the information that allows the ROV to send back imagery to us, and to us to send controls down to the ROV. And it's quite a bit of fiber optic cable. The amount of data that's coming up from the sub is just phenomenal. We have basically a gigabyte a minute of video data that are being transmitted up that fiber optic cable to the ship, and 10 gigabytes every 10 minutes. 7 gigabytes of that is just this HD feed that you folks get to see. Not quite in as high resolution as we see it here on the ship, but pretty darn good for sending it through a satellite and back to wherever you are, and you're joining us in your pajamas at your home on a Saturday night if you're in North America. Is that green? Almost looks greenish.
What was that?
Are we near the top of the seamount, or is this still on the ridge line?
This is still on the ridge. We're at 2,000 meters, so it's a ways up to the top.
Oh.
Just a pretty flat spot.
Yeah, same thing last night. We were looking at a flat spot like this, looked very similar, and then suddenly we came upon a little bit more steeper ridge line, and boom, gosh, the distribution of animals really changed dramatically. It had some spectacular sponges and corals along that ridge line. And again, it's all about the currents. These animals need to expose themselves to currents and take advantage of the best spots for that. If you're on a ridge, then the currents wrapping around the seamount or accelerating as they come up to the ridge line is definitely an advantageous place for most of these organisms. Little glass sponge.
Sponges there.
So how does this compare to the last voyage when? So the previous voyage to this one, they were on the other end of the Hawaiian archipelago and Hawaii Emperor Seamount chain, almost close to Russia, a few hundred miles from the coast of
Yeah, maybe not that close. I don't remember actually, but yeah, the Emperor Seamount. So 45 north is about as high. So there we were looking at the sort of whether or not there was a connection or where was the dividing line between Aleutian Island and Gulf of Alaska species and Hawaiian Island, Northwest Hawaiian Island species. And so we were also diving a little bit shallower. I think the deepest dives that we were doing there were 2,000 meters, so this depth. So it was also the seamounts were seemed to have at least where we were at perhaps a little bit less sedimentation on them. So on the Aleutian side, it was smaller deep sea corals, smaller sponges for the most part, and definitely relatively sparse in comparison to the Hawaiian side. But once you start seeing that Hawaiian fauna, you start seeing a lot of bamboos, a lot of corallium, a lot of primnoids, all of which are pretty reasonably sized. So they're definitely different. There's definitely a break in the species composition there. And it's about where we thought it was. The gap is what it's called. So we'll see. Yeah, over the course of this expedition, we're going to try and make similar determinations about, is there a gap somewhere along Necker Ridge that sort of separates the southern, the sort of, can we characterize and then separate the sort of community composition around these seamounts that we're visiting here, and are they distinct and different from, I guess, the Hawaiian community? So we'll see.
Yeah, and for that, they're collecting samples of which they will do DNA barcoding on those organisms and do similar collections along within Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument and the seamounts of the Hawaiian chain, Hawaiian Ridge, and see if how similar their genetic material is. Try to find if there's any divergence of organisms, and they use a lot of times for this type of work they use mitochondrial DNA just because it has it's a greater translation. It's a maternally inherited DNA, and it has a easier way of determining a lineage, and but within deep sea organisms, and my understanding is being stretched here, but the mitochondrial DNA it doesn't change very much. It's very and they actually have a repair component within their DNA that repairs any mutations. So mutations are very infrequent, and so that is problematic when you're looking at changes in DNA as an organism moves or speciates or evolves. So they're using a different technique. They're using microsatellite markers on DNA, and from that they will try to determine if these coral collected on here, say a bamboo or a black coral or some of these other species we're collecting, are same species or different.
So a lot of that work is the work that Nikki and Dr. Amy Bacco-Taylor of Florida State will be undertaking.
It's pretty interesting to think that so there's all this sediment on the floor here, and there's a sea pen in the middle of the view there. But tropical waters, one of the reasons why they're so good for diving and so, the clarity is so good is because there isn't that much in the water. They're nowhere near as productive as cooler waters off continental shelves and things like that.
Okay, thanks.
So it's interesting to think of where all this sediment came from. If they're not nearly as many plankton or plankton or zooplankton in the water to form this marine snow. And as Dr. Ork mentioned earlier, you have where in the northern part where they were just looking, there wasn't so much sediment on these seamounts. So that may tell us that perhaps currents aren't as strong here to wash off those sediment from the seamounts, or
Yeah, presumably the sedimentation, well, I mean, the sedimentation rates of marine snow are going to be dependent upon overall productivity, right? So these are relatively low productivity environments, and so that's why they tend to be a little bit clearer. Yeah, one of the collections we did today on the CTD was to filter, water through a very small pore-sized filter in order to capture all of that particulate organic material. And so where, if you were in a coastal environment, you may normally, clog up your filter after 5 liters, if you could even get 5 liters through it. Here, it was 15 liters, and that was
very
the surface.
clear water.
Yeah, the deep one was, I don't think there was very little, if any,
wow,
on those ones. So we might not even bother doing them anymore, and just focus on, that sort of surface water and that sort of chlorophyll maximum layer to have any chance of getting a reasonable amount of that POM or particulate organic material in order to be able to do the isotopic analyses that we are interested in doing. So
yeah, so it's that tells us, or at least it tells me potentially that all this sediment that we're seeing has deposited over quite a long period of time, and again with relatively infrequent disturbance, strong disturbance down this deep to clear that material off of the underlying basalt. As some of you might know, the sand in a coral reef environment is actually mostly developed from things like parrotfish and the other bioeroders that break down coral skeletons and pulverize it, and in the case of parrotfish, poop it out and it becomes the sand that forms the beautiful sand we have in Hawaii. But we don't have anything like that here because the top of the seamount's 1,500.
yeah,
About 1,500 meters. There's no, there's no coral scleractinian based, the coral reef that needs sunlight to reproduce reef building organisms, and therefore no parrotfish and things like that. So that none of that's going on here to create this sand. This is all just deposited over who knows how long, hundreds and hundreds of years of deposition through the water column falling from the surface. And there's I think that's one of the, is that one of the skeletons of that glass sponge that right to the right of that rock there that,
yes,
that
would
passed
be
away.
correct.
They're really neat. They look so much like vertebrae.
Were you here when we saw the really big one last
Yeah.
night? Yeah, that was really
spectacular.
that was probably one of the biggest sponges I've ever seen.
How high was that?
We figured it was like what, 2/3 of the height of the sub. Yeah, so 2-3 meters.
It had all that brown filamentous on. Was that sediment on one side?
Yeah, that was sediment on one side.
Yeah. So potentially that one, it looked like it had been it looked like it was kind of bent over at an angle to the bottom, and perhaps the sediment falling from above fell on just one side of it, and because the other side was clear.
Yeah, the other
The
side was
side-
clear.
It appears to be they face into the current on that side, so perhaps it didn't impede its feeding. And these shrimp are pretty big, so these are like 10 centimeter long
Yeah.
shrimp, 4.5 inches. So if you know a little bit about physics and water, the reds are the first thing that are filtered out as you descend down the water column. So what would be the advantage of that being red shrimp? They can't see it being red.
I think it's just it's
Camouflage.
makes them harder to see by other organisms maybe.
Light doesn't penetrate down to this depth at all. Is it what? It's a chemical within the shrimp.
Oxygen.
Mm.
That's why a lot of the plants are red because it's so full of H.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, I remember that it was on there.
So these shrimp are the great scavengers of the deep. Although we don't see many of them from a survey like this, there are other types of surveying or sampling where you do a baited drop cam, and you put like a dead fish or something onto a platform that you lower down to the surface, lower down to the bottom, and there's some cameras that observe it. And it's amazing, within literally 10-15 minutes in an area like this, that would it would be covered in those shrimp. I mean, they can detect food and detritus chemically very quickly, and then they aggregate rather fast. It's quite amazing. You in an area like this that looks, you don't see anything, all of a sudden you would see just so many shrimp piled on top of that, and fish come in, and if there are any of the 6-gill or the deeper sea sharks,
Hi, Jimbo. Hi, Jim.
they aggregate pretty quickly on that, which you have to. I mean, if you have anything that comes down, you got to take advantage of it fast in this environment, because meals are few and far between. What is that?
Probably a sponge.
So you do see some patterns in the sand as we're going over it, and it's not evidence of Atlantis. It is actually either sea cucumbers cruising across the bottom, or there are some animals that crabs and other things that live down in the sand, or some of the fish that'll live in these tiny little holes, and you can see the patterns as they dig out their little burrows. But mostly I think sea cucumbers are doing these weird track lines
Yeah.
as they forage they filter the sand and sediment in the bottom for their food. It's like a giant roving vacuum cleaner for organic material. It's a Roomba, right? It's a deep sea Roomba. So somebody, Great James, is asking when were these seamounts islands? So these seamounts about 114, 120 million years ago. They were, yep, Cretaceous, yes. They were seamounts. They were further south of the Cretaceous equator than they are now, and they've drifted north into this area as they eroded and subducted and collapsed back into the ocean. But they were at once atolls or tropical islands. I think one of the seamount features had a really cool, clearly what was once a lagoonal feature, so it was once atoll. We were talking a little bit about this last night. There continues to be a global drilling project where they do cores from these different islands. This one was surveyed in the 1980s, I think it was. If you just Google mid-Pacific seamounts and sea coring, you can see some of the interesting profiles that they collected from these seamounts, showing that they were once, a lot of the tops are calcareous, meaning that they were at surface, and coral growth had capped them, and also plant material, or crushed and kind of geologically compressed plant material, but that they even found some of that in these cores, and they have profiles of the cores in these papers. It's really interesting. So it's similar to Hawaii, formed from a mid-plate volcanic hotspot, but not linear the way that the Hawaiian Islands was formed. And that's basically a function of the trajectory of the plate on top of the hotspot, because the Pacific plate for Hawaiian geology was moving in the same direction for the last 40 million years, and then somewhere within that had a huge event which created a bend in the Hawaii Emperor Seamount chain. And we still don't know exactly what caused that bend, but one of the prevailing theories for that is that when the Australian plate collided into the Australian-Asian plate collided into the Eurasian plate, that creating the Himalayas, that potentially caused a shift in motion of a plate, that you see that very stark bend. But every year I ask my geologist friends if there's a more formal understanding of that, and every year I get kind of the same answer, that it's still theoretical, and that's the best explanation they have right now. So yeah, a lot of these questions about plate movements and geologic formation of islands and atolls there's a lot of really strong theories, but it's still very theoretical. Even the hotspot, the Hawaiian hotspot, what exactly is it? What creates those things there's no way to directly really observe some of those things, certainly. So the current theory is that it's kind of like you have changes in currents in the ocean, you have changes in currents in the magma underneath the lithosphere, and it's an area where you might have like an eddy of hotter lava that causes the plate to deflect up a little bit from the heat and expansion of that magma, and then cracking it, and through those cracks lava comes up and forms on the Hawaii island now, still forms Kilauea and Loihi, the current seamounts coming up, but formed the entire Hawaiian archipelago and Emperor Seamount chain. So anyway, so from the mid-Pacific Mountains, it was similar formation, but wasn't a linear trajectory, because what you see from the map is kind of a big, almost elliptical area of mountains, not a linear chain of mountains. So perhaps movement of plates in the Cretaceous was a little more jiggery than a direct line of the Pacific as it is now.
How far have we gone, Ben? Okay, Rod?
We have gone, well, that was a 250 mark right there.
Okay.
that'll be your 500 when we get there. I moved the vessel to
Okay,
the 500.
perfect.
It's a vast seamount desert here coming over.
Exciting stuff.
We might perhaps find some space rocks in there, right?
Maybe. Yeah, to pick up a whole lot of rocks in order to find that one space rock.
Yeah.
We actually did that study in NASA.
Yeah.
I know there wasn't there a Falcor expedition to look for meteorite origin rocks at one point in time.
How'd that work out? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rock in a haystack.
They followed the meat out in the fall as it
Mhm.
fell. Once it lands, it shatters or something.
Yeah, it's very hard to find meteoric components on some substrate this deep. But there are a lot of really, I mean, if you get a chance, definitely check out the SOI website. There's some pretty amazing expeditions that have been done over the last 5 years of RV Falcor's travels around the world. A lot of cool expeditions. It's definitely a great diversity of studies being done on board this vessel, and it's really a great it's a great tool for scientists to be able to apply for and get ship time, you know, especially in a government or academic really budgeted limited environment. To be able to have this opportunity aboard RV Falcor is pretty amazing. I know that for NOAA and Papahanaumokuakea, there were about almost 60 to 90 days of mapping that they did within Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument that really mapped most of the prior boundary of the monument prior to expansion, and all those data as soon as they're captured and get back to land are basically updated, uploaded onto public servers, and they update Google Maps and Google Earth and are available for researchers anywhere in the world. It's a great tool for scientists.
It's also one of the nicer research vessels you'll get a chance to go on. The amenities are top notch.
It's very nice.
Good cooks, good food, good
Yeah.
workout equipment, excellent ROV. What more could you ask for?
Good crew.
Yeah, good crew, good bridge.
Measure for confidence there.
Good crew from around the world. We got over
Yeah.
a dozen countries
Good
represented.
marine techs.
Sorry, fishing.
And the ship has to operate 24/7, so you know you have crew that are, you know, almost nocturnal in a ways. I mean, they're night shift, and then they're other during the day. And you know, at the beginning of the cruise, one of the traditions of SOI Falcor is to have a barbecue, because you may not see some of all the crew during your entire voyage out, because they're on a completely different shift than you're on. And so at the beginning you get to meet everybody, and it's a really nice meet and greet, acquaint yourself with the crew in Falcor. It's a different, you know, it's a very different world living and working at sea. You know, although it is a very comfortable vessel, the great people and great amenities. You know, you are pretty much everybody shares bunk space. You know, you have it's very different than living on land, and you're also, I think it's a beautiful sea cucumber. Continuously exposed to the motion of the ocean. You're always after you get up back on land. It takes about 2 days before the land stops moving. It's really kind of cool. Not for people who get motion sick, but for people like me, it's I like that. It takes about 2 days. How long did it take for you to Ben? You've been spending a lot of time out at sea. How long does it take for you before the land stops moving when you get back? 3 days. You see, everybody's different.
What's that?
How long it takes for the land to stop moving when you get back to shore after being out at sea for like a couple weeks.
It just happens occasionally, like normally when I'm taking a shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that confined space in the shower that's the worst for it.
Yeah. So you may be fine. You get back, and you know, after a few hours or a day, you might be fine. And then you get in the shower, and all of a sudden, you get like it starts moving. You get a little bit of vertigo. Oh, what is that? What is that critter? Is that a sea cucumber, or is that a very unique one? I don't think I've seen that one yet. Yes, James, better than the HMS Beagle, that's for sure. I think our food and accoutrements are much better. There is a traditional role on vessels called the purser, and this person takes care of a lot of the administrative stuff. Oh, hold on, I will carry on that thought in a second.
Between splat lobsters and crabs, polykellies are one of the.
I think this is potentially a Polychelidae.
Incucombin.
Carry on.
Yeah.
So there's one of the crew roles is the purser, and they handle a lot of the administrative duties on board. The historical role of the purser was to control a lot of the money and pay on board British vessels and other vessels. But also in the back days of the British Navy, one of the most important roles at sea was to distribute the Pusser's rum, which was the special British Navy blended rum that all sailors were given a little dollop of to maintain law and order on the ship. And that was one of the important roles of the purser, was to distribute the Pusser's rum in the British Navy for 300 years. So we don't have any of that, James, but we do have other things, but that rum is not distributed by the purser anymore, although in the HMS Beagle, Darwin's vessel, that was probably one of the roles, and they probably had it on board there. A few sea urchins.
Definitely haven't gotten my rum ration.
Go see the purser. Our purser is Tammy. She's from Australia.
It's gotta fight that scurvy.
That's right. The rum fights the scurvy. The scurvy fights the rum, and eventually the rum fights the rum, and you're done, right? Is that the way it works? Yeah. Man drinks the beer drinks the man. How's that go? Oh, you see all the tracks? Look at the tracks of that. That's a drunken sea urchin that's meandered across the bottom there, searching for food. James on our Facebook things here says that Darwin had the worst cabin in the bow of the ship of the HMS Beagle. Of course, they stick the naturalist in the bow. You know, that's biologists always get the lowest end of the stick.
You're pretty far forward.
That's right. That's right. I'm not quite as much a biologist. I am in the bow.
You are.
But I am next to one of the most important rooms on the ship.
Which is?
Yeah, the sauna.
The sauna? Because we need the sauna in this environment.
This tropical environment. So
I
this,
still have never done it.
Has anyone used it?
I used it today. It was awesome. Yes.
Yeah, see, this is what we're talking about. There are some amenities on this ship that you would not normally find.
No, it's not a.
The sauna being one. Although I have the only other research vessel I've been on that has had a sauna was the research vessel Falcon or Sikuliak. So, but that is an icebreaker. That's NSF's newest icebreaker. So they probably have need of the sauna in order to warm up after
Yes.
a long day of breaking ice in the Arctic. So.
These have an outdoor pool on deck.
Yeah.
Those tubs they go through the water.
Not too crazy.
We could still do that,
We can still do that
yes.
if required.
Yeah.
I will
It's,
get my bottle samples out of the hot tub if somebody wants to make a hot tub or use the hot tub.
yeah, I think it feels pretty unique being in tropical waters and being out for 3 weeks, yet never actually getting into the water at all. It's kind of a unique experience for me, at least. There's a lot of water out there. It looks very inviting, but there is no swimming on this, and certainly nothing to see via snorkeling because you're 1,500 meters above the bottom.
No swim calls.
Yeah, no swim calls anymore. I'll tell you how long I've been going to sea for that I have done some swim calls a long, long time ago before they're pretty much sort of banned. So,
That was pretty recent that they banned them though, right?
well, yeah, it was pretty recent. I haven't been going to sea for that long. We did a few off of Florida actually when we were working on the. I think it was off of the Nor on the Grand Bahamian Bank. We were allowed to do them, but that was probably 25 years ago.
What was the genesis for stopping?
Shark attack.
Was it the horrible one that was like filmed off of Chile or something?
That was in the big rocks.
Yeah, it was a big ship.
No, the big rocks, basically. Easter Island.
Was that off of Easter Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a couple of incidences like that.
The chief scientist was watching the whole thing unfold in a porthole.
Oh, really?
One of the students.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
So,
Yes, that put the kibosh on that. The old sharks messed up our swim calls.
But I think that
they were fun.
That was more of a, I don't know, maybe they follow protocol.
They're still not the
Yeah,
lasers, though. I don't see them.
Yeah, they're out there.
We stopped it after that because then they reinstated it, and now we have to have 2 ladders, rigid ladders,
Mm.
and no more dumping of food while we're in the water.
Yeah, well,
That's just
yeah.
Yeah, no, or
Should have been common sense. Don't do a swim call after you've been stationary for multiple hours and allowed all the fish to congregate, which then attracts all the sharks to come in, right? Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, we're going to move. Then we show up at a site, do the swim call, then dump the food, and then fish, and then see.
then
that's good order of operation.
Yeah, see.
then we gotta have a lookout on top,
Yeah,
and we have to have a boat in the water.
yeah.
Other ships.
And 2 ladders.
On other ships.
2 ladders, rigid.
On other ships?
Yeah.
Oh, that.
We were fighting each other, and rope ladder.
So the upshots we're not swimming on this trip, nor probably any deep ocean research trip. But this monitor in front of us is so big we can almost dive into the thing. It's very alluring.
Yeah.
You can't hear it, but behind us is our diligent Virginia clicking away. We have the system captures a frame grab from the 4K video feed every few seconds, and they're logging everything they see. So it's a kind of a system that allows keyword tagging for whatever species you might see. You capture a frame, you tag it, you get it down as far as you can go to the individual type of organism, and then you save it, and then the frames continue on, and so that's ongoing during this entire time. And so here you have a critter that comes up, and then Virginia is fiendishly looking for, through the Office of Exploration has a really nice imagery catalog with different categories of organisms and pictures, and try to keyword it down to the closest type of organism it is and save that. And the really sweet thing about that is that after the voyage is done, they walk off. They already have keyworded video, and that you can edit it, and you people will go back over it again when there's more time. But it's a very nice rudimentary level. You have these stills of something interesting at a given point, and kind of what type of organism it is, so you can search through that database and quickly try to find a particular organism of interest on a particular seamount. It's really nice. Each one of those images captures a whole suite of metadata along with it that the sub is capturing, of everything from latitude, longitude, to depth, to oxygen concentration, to temperature, to a whole range of things.
In that transect, and let's go try and find ourselves something better.
So, head which direction? Keep going the same way?
Yeah, let's keep going the same way, and let's try and get to maybe there's something on those ridges, or we'll get back to some rocks.
Do you want to keep going at the same pace?
We can go faster.
So do you want to call this end of a transect or continue on?
No, we'll call it end of a transect, but we'll try and find some more.
Direction.
Yeah, same direction you've been going. There's a little bit of we keep going this direction. I think that there's an opportunity for maybe some topography changes. 7:30, 8:30, 9:30.
So Brett, you can see on this screen.
Yeah.
Quite as detailed as yesterday, but
I'm sort of hoping maybe on that.
What was that other?
Like I play with this and just let it go.
Some kind of seafood.
Let's keep going.
They have these portions that are
Just keep swimming, keep swimming. Ooh, look, you can see that thing's trail.
Yeah. That other one you can see it too, right? That last one we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a nice big trail behind it.
Moving so fast.
Yeah, you can see the track line of that urchin in the sand.
Right. The shrimp looks like it's in there.
That's another good track line right there. But
Yeah, the Ruba.
that's literally what they do too, is just suck everything up and all the nutrients out the sediment bed.
What a life.
What's that?
Let's do some imaging on that, I guess, real quick. Know what it is to break up the monotony here. Do we have the lasers on? Nice pen. So the lasers are 10 centimeters across, and you can see the lasers just down at the bottom of the two green dots, just down at the bottom of the screen. So this is slightly larger than that.
What's the black stuff inside?
Do not know. Yeah, it's the guts.
That looks like good stuff.
Little shrimp hanging off at one end there, it looks like. Or,
Yeah.
Is
Looks
that a
like a
shrimp,
shrimp.
or is it just, no, it's mangled. I think the tip is just mangled. Yeah. I was wrong. It's like a mangled tip.
Oh, okay. The top one, it's like hanging its tentacle off right there.
Yeah. See if I can- All right, Ben. Thank you very much.
Brendan,
Yeah.
I can't find that purple thing anywhere in this guy.
Yeah. I mean, the really big one we saw
Yeah.
a while ago?
The one that
Yeah.
one that's like leaving those big tracks.
Yeah.
That's an urchin.
Yeah, I don't even, it doesn't quite look like an urchin. But it doesn't really look like a sea cucumber either.
Or ant shoot.
Yeah.
She can't figure out what it's called. She's trying to identify it. Again, looking forward.
Is it one of these ones that you want to take a better look at?
Yeah, would that be alright?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Can we do that, Ben?
There were pirates. Hit him with a hod.
Looks like
You may flip it over, see what's on the bottom side.
wow.
See hedgehog. See it with it.
Sea hedgehog, that's perfect.
I like that. It has to be an urchin, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an urchin.
There's a bunch of stuff living on it too. Some,
Urchin with an urchin on it?
Yeah.
there's definitely a bunch of associates with it.
Look like polyps. Looks like barnacles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see those on some of the corals every now and then. But then there's also maybe some polychaetes. Hard to tell.
Do you want to see underneath it?
Nah, we'll be okay.
It's for science. Use this everywhere. Big time.
All right, thanks, Ben. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yep.
Stay classy. See, babe.
Yeah, I missed that. Snap zoom up.
See shrimp?
There's one coming in here. I'll try and get him.
ROV Bridge.
Go ahead, Ty.
Hi, J-Rod. Just to give you a heads up, it'll be hitting O'Day Arch shortly. Is the plan just to continue to the southwest?
Yes, that is the plan. I'll just keep dangling the carrot if that's okay with you guys.
Dangle the carrot all night long.
Roger that. I'll let you know if we'll be coming next time.
Thanks, J-Rod. Enough safe watching.
All right, cheers.
Another spot.
Yeah, we can keep going.
They're like, food.
Yeah, let's go down and take a look at that.
That hurts.
Yeah.
I think you need to go up and down on her.
That was actually bad.
Yeah, that one's moving.
Clip. There you go.
What happens when you have long legs?
It's the Usain Bolt of
I don't know
urchins.
if that's like.
Shrimp's like, no, look at you.
Yeah, look at me. I've seen you before.
I think the shrimp is just fine. That is all the shrimp. That is all the urchin.
Isn't it Carrie? So that sounded like.
Yeah, it's got some of the it's got some of this stuff entangled on its legs.
That's pretty cool.
That is moving.
A lot of feet.
Yeah.
It's really I don't know about one step. Not that many feet.
Whoop, fell down. 20 centimeter long legs in some cases, 15. All right, Ben, we can keep going. Okay.
Not too. He just has really good pace going right there.
I'm just going to snap zoom on this, but you can keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, because we've seen it before. I'll just do another.
Short legs get you nowhere.
Yep. And one of those fast movers. And we can keep going. Yep.
Poor lonely urchin.
just bounces down that and actually going up. And I started getting down. Can you go back down? Yeah. You're getting this one?
Yes.
The thing, and you still looking at that was 10% before that thing signed up.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a tuna farm? There are parasitic tuna farms? That's amazing. Yeah, I totally believe the walls. It just smells great.
Oh, we didn't see that yet.
It's not any pictures.
Huh. Then probably nobody knows what it is.
Well, it's gonna be in. I mean, this is the pictures.
No. It's that.
What area is this? This is.
basically full sun
Okay.
and some auto altitude.
Auto altitude. Oh, brave, dude.
Seems to be working.
Let's slow down and see if we can take a quick look here.
Okay, so are you guys like doing transect? You just start checking stuff out, or what?
Yeah, we're just looking for stuff.
You want to look at that rock?
Yes, please.
There's the way too much to it. All that time ago.
Just one little wisp of
You
something.
seem happy, actually. What's your roll with it? Put it down.
Seeping?
Yeah, that's what I would say. Found the one rock in the middle of all the sand.
Have fun, Ben.
Thank you.
See ya, Ben.
See ya.
No cookies. Huh?
That's all I want to come out of. That's all I want.
No, you're not. What up? You petting me? I cut my hair and I shaved today. And also did it yesterday. That's
Bye, Ben.
Bye there.
Later.
Huh?
Yeah.
Could be. All right, we can keep going.
Alright.
Yeah, we're just heading west.
West.
Yeah, if you zoom out on your one of your maps, there's potential for.
The big red spot. There we go.
Yeah, let's keep going west, and then maybe we'll get up into some of that. I was hoping we'd get to a ridge over here. Start. Before you start moving.
Look at that little guy.
Mm-hmm.
Close look.
Sure.
Let's go. Alright. Split up and down.
Zero, 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 zero.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. Yeah, sorry. I didn't know what I was looking at, but give me numbers.
a little hermit crab.
Little hermit crab carrying his ship. Carrying a ship. There you are. All right, Chris, you're free to go.
Long time since we got off.
Fast you want to go?
Fast.
Fast?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's not. Just trying
This
to.
lovely sand.
Yeah, no, we're. Every now and then we see something, but we're. Trying to find something that might be more interesting. Not that sand isn't interesting, but
Sand better.
not what I'm most interested in.
What do you want?
I just keep going.
Okay.
Nothing. Have not seen any live snails. At least not that I can recollect right now on this cruise.
Here's another one of those machines.
There's a whole aggregation of them there. There's 5 or 6 right around each other.
Good. Good chance that you grabbing that handle, sticking that spot.
What?
Grabbing the handle of the flushing sampler and sticking it into the pulse.
It's fine.
Well, it just that's sits down below the rest of the ROV. Closer look at that.
No, I think I can get it. Alright, yeah. We got a good image of this from the front side. I guess we could be good to get it from the back side.
Can you spin around it?
No, this is good right here.
Oh, okay.
I guess your definition is dependent upon what you think is the front and the back, right?
A little closer to it.
Yeah, so you can see a little bit better. Alright, we can keep moving. Moving on.
So how bad is it we have to go back to work? Students and classes and all this for the last
Last 2 months of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to go back and start right away. It's like I've got 2 classes I'm supposed to be teaching right now.
Students
One
are
of
just
them.
going to get irritating. Or
No, I love my students.
no, they're not in here. Not the ones out here. We're not talking about them. They understand.
Yeah. We all have our lot in life. It's,
Yeah, I'm not sitting in this chair.
Let's bring 20, 25.
oh, let's take a look at this.
Oh, that guy. Okay,
yeah.
I'll look.
It's just a fish.
Oh, this is pretty cool.
Oh, that's neat.
That's one of those, not to go to fishes.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Find it. That's it.
Chris, north of almost.
That's fine.
I got a lot out.
Depth and valid. I think I wasn't on depth though.
All right, you're free to go.
So she'll work it.
Okay. We'll use my altitude dot. Whatever fish, didn't want to hang out with you anyway. Kevin knows when he's been distracted, so if you just keep going quick, quick.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Carry on.
Do a little bit of work on this guy since we have nothing else to do.
See the bottom a little bit. Remove the brush.
No,
Yeah, it's going pretty fast, and I slow down.
yeah, you're good. You can keep going.
Fish for the day. See a buddy over here.
All right, you can go, Chris.
soft. I think it's going out, they're not pushing that hard. Whoa.
Ooh.
That's a lot of work, not to do a whole lot, but
Yeah. I do not know that I've seen this particular kind before.
Data form.
So I think it might be similar to today. I think it's Canthonus armatus,
Canthonus armatus.
but I'm not seeing the spines that I saw in the last one. Oh, yep, there's one of some of the spines. So, what do I call them? They're like on the back of the gills. The
Perculum.
Yep. That's like an armored fish. That's cool.
perfect.
Okay.
He's blind now, but it's a cool shot for a second. He looks angry.
Looks pretty mean, doesn't he?
Yeah.
See if I can get.
Purple face and a hot face.
Yeah, 'cause he's really annoying with him. Let's get up close. Annoy him again. It's pretty awesome.
It's giving you the side eye.
Trying to get you there, John.
Got it. I think. Got it.
Happy?
Yeah, we're happy. All we're doing now is just looking for highlight reel stuff, apparently.
You can throw Monica a bone down there.
I think 3 is good. Otherwise, it's too much.
That hurt.
Something's in there, huh? Something's in there.
Oh, it's deep in there. Oh, it's
I like a peach, but it's gotta be like perfect. It can't be soft, it can't be too bright.
I don't like the red sour peaches. I don't like the soft sweet peaches.
Yeah.
You bite into it, it's like a
Yeah.
You reckon to recover? Hour and a half? 2?
About an hour.
Hour and 20 minutes.
Hour and 20 minutes?
Hour and 22 minutes, 55 seconds.
Depending on current. Plus or minus 6 seconds. Depending on current.
4 or 6 minutes.
I think it's 30 minutes. We're not at 10 minutes. We're not there.
Sorry.
No, I'll pull back on that. Let this guy for a second. Alright, you're born.
What time are you looking at to recover?
Midnight?
No,
2 o'clock in the morning?
10:30.
Is it
Like
Tomorrow morning?
on deck, 10:30.
on deck at 10:30?
Yeah.
So I've got to leave out around 9:20.
Yep. That's what I was.
And that'd put us anywhere between 10:30 and 11, depending on current.
I was thinking about like 9,
Okay.
9, 10, somewhere in there.
Around 9? That's it. Alright.
Yeah.
You are the boss, sir.
Aye, aye. At the fucking time.
Keep hoping we find something.
All sorts of stuff. Then that crazy mean looking fish.
Yeah, no, they're good. Good biology photos.
On this nice expanse of sand.
Mm-hmm. There ought to be something else like towards like that little bridge or stuff going.
So we go all the way to the big red temple looking area.
Yeah, you can
There's something
try.
there.
There's something there for sure. I'm not sure what we want, but we may not want to make that discovery.
We might not know what we want to get there. See, can you look up? Let's focus it a bit. Yeah, places to be, things to do, stuff to find.
You're dragging the ship.
What's that?
You're dragging the ship.
Who's on? Where are you now?
No, is anybody out there? Scared? Cindy. Center the third tomorrow. Cindy. Number.
Yeah, let's start going like up towards the darker patch there.
Okay.
If the ship can go that way, back and down on
Maybe
it.
Where are you going right there?
Going right here. Right?
Yeah. Well,
That direction.
yeah.
Oh. You're looking around 2,000 meters.
I'm changing it up.
Shaking it up.
There's a new plan. Stan. Meet Stan, the man, same as the old man. He's the new plan, the same as the old plan.
I spy something white.
Hey. Take a look at this.
Anemone.
Back out a little bit. No, this will be good enough.
Sponge.
Yeah.
I don't know. We couldn't figure this one out before.
Good little bait one.
Is that a
It's
worm?
like a hollow tube.
Yeah. Some kind of worm?
Yeah. Sticking stuff out its end. Oh, right. Yeah, you gonna turn? No. Some other shells on it. Gastropods or foraminifera, maybe? Alright, we can go, Chris.
Alright.
Oh, in August. September, I guess it is now.
Listen to some Pink Floyd now when I get off shit.
No, it looks like it. Or something close to it.
Chitopteridae.
I love Pink Floyd.
Don't like it.
You don't like the Beatles?
Very much just like.
I bet you I could play you some Beatles songs that you would like.
There's some deep cuts in it.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that, Cody, man.
Beatles guy.
Me neither.
For the Stones, the Revolver's a pretty good record.
Revolver's a great record. There were sold a couple songs on there that a lot of people who don't like the Beatles enjoy. My mom's not a Beatles fan, but she loves them darling off the way. Or off the block.
Pink Floyd.
You can
Def
do both.
Leppard.
Def Leppard, okay, that's a bit of a jump, but I like Def Leppard.
I'll go for Def Leppard.
Twisted Sister.
Pyromania.
Iron Maiden.
Of course. Yeah.
We'll make friends.
Let's do something quick and then we'll keep going.
What was that?
Sorry.
It's weird how
Blue. I was a fan of it. We were like at one point. I was just ranked like 100. I like that.
Alright, wanna look at them?
It's a pretty fish.
You're a freak.
Thank you.
And like,
Right? Yeah. Give us both sides.
yeah,
There
show
you
us
go.
both sides. There you go.
Don't move. Stay.
It's a nice fish.
Good.
What kind of fish is that?
It's Bathidrois atricolor.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a tripod fish. They're cool. Oh, thanks for the ankle
Hey, stay.
Make sure you
I just
guys
wanted
get
to
side,
like,
that's all.
yeah, and now we've got everything we need to do like a good ID on it.
Oh,
Front side and side view.
Maybe it's Mario.
Got one big mouth, doesn't he?
It's
Okay.
He's gone.
Yeah, we're
And
like 2
he's
inches.
gone.
this
He
way.
went like 2, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Here you know. See you later, buddy.
The lane 10 feels bifurcation there.
What's that? There's some of those little mud ball things.
Yeah. We can keep going.
What are those called again? They're not really called ball things.
What do you mean, like C5 force?
Yeah, they look like shaped, like how, you know, like your grandmother has the soap and the you can never use that shapes like little things. That's what it looks like. I made out of sand.
Like shell.
Shell and starfish.
Yeah, but it's like
Sea star.
Still it's plastic. Sticker on the back.
Decoration on it.
doing that. It's either a man or a mating one. For to like get with the mating one to get with the.
Hydraulic press.
No. Look at that.
No.
Okay. The core tubes. It came right there. It's about perfectly do this.
This is right.
And that's it.
Oh, you're talking about
It's the funny. I felt horrible for Latin guys. It was either that or cry. Because
Xeno Battlefors.
it's kind of core tubes.
And then the Xenotrabellid are worm socks. Feet socks.
Worm socks.
Yeah, that's both close to
Yeah. We spent days picking up wool to be like discarded gym socks off the suit.
those things eat Aphrodite worms.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What's that?
What'd you say?
Those fish they eat. One of their primary things to eat is the polychaete Aphrodite. Yeah, so eat crustaceans. Crustaceans dominated, but the worms are a big part of their diet.
It's not straight lines.
Like how?
Like a log.
Nothing how.
Still got a water. Yeah. Said we roll with it. Till we get in. You know what it's gonna be. Somebody dropped a wrapper in there. Oreo wrapper in there or something.
Street sandwich wrapper.
Yeah.
What do you do first?
Get the surgeon to leave gloves and sponges inside of a patient. What we did.
Some rubber gloves or so.
There was that one bolt we lost for a minute. That'd be there. What's the next line?
Huh?
What's the next line?
Next line.
You know what? This is what? What? What's that mean?
The streets.
They ain't talking about me.
The streets.
You ever see that Chris Rock stand up for time about that song? Yeah. He's like, the girls in the club is dancing. He ain't talking about me. Anything you want to take a closer look at? That guy over there?
No, we've seen shrimp before.
Big rock. Big on the rock.
Anything, nothing.
Nothing on the rock. Oh well. Something's inside the rock.
It's a rock. It's a rock.
Oh man. What?
Starts on the side.
Slide disturbers. I can get away from them, no problem.
Oh yeah.
Do that whole someplace to be speed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, don't you know?
Get away from it. Places, get away.
My inner Michigan came out.
Why at? Michigander. Michigander.
Michigander.
Michigander.
Yeah. Michigonian. But we prefer Michiganders. He's a good Michigan.
And some from Halifax is an alligator. They've had a wild one. Don't know why. Halifax. Okay.
How long do you move to British Columbia, John?
Sorry?
How long do you move to BC?
How long ago?
Yeah, when you move to BC. But everybody's moving to BC these days, so
We can say.
East Coaster for life.
I got to Oregon before I went there.
Well, it's closer. Look at that. You want to look at that? On the left.
Sure.
I gotta go back now.
But,
Well,
East Coast
oops,
is East
oops,
Coast.
oops. East Coast is the least coast, what is it?
East.
Or beast. It's beast. Alright, I just blew my mind.
Oh, sorry, we can keep going.
DC is beautiful.
It's closer to Oregon, that's how I was thinking, just for your relationship purposes.
Okay, but that's all right. Just
Keep going.
You're gonna go that way from home and let's do what?
Might as well just go look for some.
Oregon? You ever been to Texas now?
Deer hunting.
You went deer hunting? That's right, that's pictures.
You can always come visit us in College Station. Any of you guys.
I've been through there.
You stop.
I'll be there around Christmas time.
For
Yeah, what are you going to be doing there at Christmas time?
We go to the Santa Claus Lounge.
Oh, yeah.
The other here.
Ooh, place called
It's
Oh, you get, it's like all the people from Houston drive up and there's like miles of traffic on the highway into town.
this huge
Cool rock.
drive through.
Oh, Franklin lives in Michigan, and where's Christmas all year long. It's a little Bavarian village.
Used to be how they make you take a hay ride.
It's nice. Okay.
I've never been, so I don't know.
Wagon. Do a little hayride.
And then there's
Yeah, we do a Clydesdale hayride on a sleigh. Like Jingle Bells to the sun. Did it once though.
All right.
Not interesting.
No. Let's go. Let's work our way up
Ooh, it's
here.
starting to get interesting.
That's the
Oh,
trick.
you have to put on the ring.
Yep.
We did it.
we're going.
Let's get this here.
Good job, big trouble.
Alright, Rich.
Hey Eric, I think we found what we're looking for. We found a ridge, so we might hold you right there, buddy.
Alright, so I'll come to a stop. We'll keep on going laterally, just hover the bit. I'll do my best.
Beautiful. That sounds good, brother.
Thank you.
Loves me going
Part of the piece.
Okay. Try to move it. It's a great guy.
Is that one or a little more interesting?
That's the bamboo, so I'm pretty good. All right, let's keep going up. What else is there to see?
Is there a guy right there?
Let's go take a look at that sea pen, probably.
Let's for a little bit and then start picking up.
Or sponge. All right, we can keep going up.
You alright, Cody? Some guys over here on the side.
You're sitting on
Thanks.
That's a beauty shot.
Seeing rocks.
I think we're just seeing rocks.
We're gonna go top one on the side. We can see more stuff.
Let's just go up the top. Sort of wiggle.
Go on that ridge or on the left here.
Yeah. To the left.
It's funny. When we hear left, we start singing Beyonce.
Hmm.
That's fun. It's a lot of fast little area up that. Here. Doesn't look as though there's anything in there, except for a really awesome drop.
Nope. Let's keep on going up. Sometimes the rocks in the distance look like they've got
Oh, there's something there.
sponges.
What's that? No.
Such rain. Pull up. Sponge. Sponge.
Care about?
I'll try and get it like another I'll try and get a couple of close-ups and then keep going. I can get what I need.
You alright?
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Got it.
Okay, we can keep going.
Great. Who's the guy on the left? Partner.
And there it ends. Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit more west than I am right now. Back to the darker spot. Yeah, not to go west. Just a little bit more. See that dark area? That's what's on.
Up there.
Yeah, one of the darkest.
All right, Eric, you ready for these moves again?
Ready to go.
You're doing a great job, Eric. Very
Rock
proud of
and
you.
roll. Here we go, brother.
Awesome, thank you.
Let's do it.
Those systems in the sand sequence.
Yeah.
So those original
You start at ASP.
Whoa. You alright?
You alright?
Fine. Awesome. Stop and look at something.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so
That hurt. Did you go to the gym yet today? So I was gonna go after shift. You're gonna join me. You already done your work for the day. My buddy Amy. All I have are short shorts, you know that.
Knee highs.
Short shorts, knee highs, and a headband. What is this?
Fish off to the right.
This whole like
Got something else coming out of the darkness there.
yeah.
What do we have here? More rocks with nothing on them.
Another rise and then a dip before we get to that rise we have.
Let's go here.
Nice one.
Yeah.
That's strange stuff. That would be.
Some nice pictures, John. Outstanding. Hey,
The snow.
there's going there.
All right, you're free to go, Chris.
Ready? Far.
That's quick, man.
Hey.
Huh?
You guys want anything? Coffee? Tea?
And I'm good.
Chocolate? Maybe want chocolate. You want some, Jeff?
I'm good, thanks.
Ready? I know you want chocolate. Go for it. Christopher?
I'm good, but thank you.
Well, you want something?
You want to share something? That's what it is?
I'll share some with you. I'll share some with you.
You get whatever you want and he'll share it with you.
I know that's what you want. Whatever makes you happy, guys.
You want to get chocolate coffee? I'm not sure.
Just need suspicion.
Just continue reading this real quick.
Whoops.
We collected any samples during this time?
That was the best.
It's too sparse. There's something hiding behind that sponge. Anemone. Anemone.
Sponge one,
Oh, oh, high density.
sponge two,
Ooh, another anemone. That's a nice one. It's a big fatty.
Listen now. Let's look at these.
yeah, I mean, if you want to sit down, that's fine. You pretty much know what they are.
I need this.
Over there.
On that middle one.
Fiddlehead.
Which one?
On the left.
Oh, like the little S one?
No, I saw the S one as well. Right.
Oh yeah, that's like I was looking at that. That's like it's like the tube worm or something like that. It's like whatever it builds to get out or something. That's what I've been looking at before. A little bit of a bamboo dead piece right there in front of that rock.
To the right.
Yeah,
In front of the rock. Right side.
small bamboo piece right there. A lot of good that doesn't. No, have to use the suction for that. There's a couple of those. All right, we can pick up and go.
That's a popular area we see.
I know. Whopping 4 or 5.
Cody, still a Saints fan? No. Still Sheep fan?
Yeah.
So you're taking on Houston pro teams, but Louisiana colleges. I identified myself by my suffering so much as a Lions fan that even when I left Detroit, I still had to be a Lions fan.
Well, I would say that we are nearing the end of our time at this location. This is the research vessel Falcor of the Schmidt Ocean Institute. You are looking at images live from the sea floor via the remotely operated vehicle SuBastian. We are currently at 1,830 meters, working our way up the slope of Mid-Pacific Mountain number 3. This is part of an expedition to look at connectivity and population distribution of deep sea corals and other megafauna along Necker Ridge and the seamounts north and south of Necker Ridge. Obviously right now we are south of Necker Ridge, and so the sort of hashtag for this expedition is bridge or barrier. We will be momentarily recovering the ROV, and then we will be transiting overnight. We've got about a 5-hour transit, a couple hours of mapping, and we will be back in the water tomorrow morning. So that will be Mid-Pacific Mountain number 5. We are currently in the Pacific Remote Islands National Monument. Tomorrow we will be diving a site that is just outside of that boundary. So hopefully you will tune in and join us for another day of diving with the ROV SuBastian. This is the Schmidt Ocean Institute research vessel Falcor, and we will say good night and see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Bless you. Alright, we all done?
Yeah, we can. You can start making preparations for recovery.
Bridge, ROV control.